maintenance on the water source heat pump system is relatively simple, as long as you have access. The unit has filters built into it that get changed out, usually box pleated filters, pretty straightforward. Cleaning the coil is important, but one of the more important things to do is clean the strainer. If the strainer gets clogged up, the flow starts to stop. When the flow starts to stop, the unit tends to overheat and can trip off on what's called high head pressure. So again, relatively simple unit, not a lot to do on the refrigeration circuit side. That's closed unless you get a leak. There is some component repair issues to these. If they fail, you can actually just change out the compressor without having to change out the entire unit. There's only a few points of connection on a water source heat pump: your condenser water supply, your condenser water return, your electrical connection, your duct work, and then your condensate line. Hi, this is Eric Sorensen again with Servi Tek Engineering and Facility Solutions. We're at another one of our Orange County buildings, except this time we're talking about water source heat pumps. So there's two different types of heat pumps. You've got water side systems and you've got air side systems. In this particular building, we've got a water side system, which means we also have a cooling tower. Again, we've got that term cooling tower, right? Cooling tower, there's three types: evaporative condensers, fluid coolers, right, which is what we have in this case. And then we have the open flow condenser water cooling tower. So in this case, we've got a fluid cooler. We'll go out and we'll talk about that. So remember, we have two types of hot water running through our typical office building, right? We've got our domestic hot water. That's what we're going to see at the sink, in the bathroom, or in the kitchens, or those kinds of things. And that's just regular potable water, city water that's coming through, going through a hot water heater, and then being pushed out at the sink level. Then, of course, we have high temperature hot water that's running at about 175 to 190 degrees. Versus about 120 degrees on the domestic side for comfort heating. Those pumps that we just showed you earlier are typically being controlled by these variable frequency drives. We talked about that with the cooling towers. And then it's sensed load. How much hot water is really being demanded at this moment? How many valves are open and calling for hot water flow? These will sense that demand and send a signal to those hot water pumps to pump that amount of water. When the demand goes down, these will ramp those motors back down and we won't pump as much hot water. So again, two types of hot water in buildings: domestic and high temperature hot water. One running about 115 to 130 degrees, one running about 175 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Hey everyone, Eric Sorensen with Servi Tek Engineering and Facility Solutions. Here to talk to you a little bit about filters. We're on the rooftop of one of our buildings here in Southern California. We're getting a lot of questions today from customers as well as tenants alike on what kind of filters do we have in our building? What kind of filters should we have in our building, and are we running the right kind of filters? So that's a little bit of a complex question. I don't want to get too deep into that because it's the difference between an office environment and a controlled environment. Office environments are not labs, they're not pharmaceutical, they're not biotech, they're not life science, but still we're pushing more and more and more for filters, much like this one, that are filtering up through viruses, which is the biggest concern with the COVID issues that we've had today in 2020. Anyway, this is a 2020x4 box pleated filter. This is a MERV 13 rated filter. This particular filter here is a MERV 8 rated filter. There is nothing wrong with this filter. The fact that it's not MERV 13 rated, though, means that a lot of buildings are moving away from this, simply because tenants are looking for something that's got a little bit better filtration quality, a little more indoor air quality focused on the filtration. That doesn't mean that anything we were doing previously was wrong. Everything was great. Filters are meant to protect equipment as much as they are to protect people. When you start putting in higher efficiency filters, you're also causing more resistance on your fan, more energy consumption, but you know what? You're going to have a happier tenant. Now, let's talk about filters for 1 second as far as changing goes. Often people say, how often should I change filters? And what they'll see is they'll see a filter that looks something like this, a little bit gray, a little bit dirty, and I'll say, well, why are you changing that? And they'll say, well, we change them quarterly just because. Okay, well, these are kind of expensive, as you'll see here. This is a MERV 13 rated filter. MERV 13s are pretty expensive filters these days, and they're a little bit hard to come by. Filters should be changed based on their pressure differential. That means the pressure from the inlet side of the filter to the outlet side of the filter. I know a lot of engineers and even property managers will walk into an air handler room, they'll look at the filter, they'll notice it's a little bit gray and say, hey, shouldn't we be changing our filters? Believe it or not, Indoor Air Quality 101 says a dirtier filter actually filters better than a new filter. So one of the main reasons why they're rated at a certain level, in this case this is a 1/4 inch of water column, before we change this filter, is because that's the efficiency level, not only on the filter medium, but before we start to really draw higher amperage on the motor by creating more resistance, pulling the air through the filter. So the difference between a MERV 13 filter and a MERV 8 filter is that a MERV 13 filter is actually rated to filter viruses, where the MERV 8 filter will not. This is a residential standard filter, as well as a lot of light commercial up to standard pre-filter in larger commercial buildings. This filter will filter a lot more bacteria, viruses, germs, dust, pollen. So MERV 13s are really good filters, but understand that a MERV 13 is a charged filter. That means the filter medium itself is a charged medium, and it will deplete over about 2 to 3 months, and the rating will drop to about a MERV 10, MERV 11 rating.